Hello and welcome, this is Matthias for mamoworld.com, and in this tutorial I want to give you an overview over all the behaviors contained in the broadcast bundle for Squash and Stretch Pro. The broadcast bundle contains 130 behaviors and a little bit more than 200 sound effects, and those behaviors come in 4 categories. In, lets layers appear in the composition by either moving or scaling them. Out is the same, just like for disappearing instead of appearing. Transitions, and then we've got these mat moves that are also there to let stuff appear or disappear, but the special thing about those is that they don't move like from the outside of the comp into the composition or so, but these are just short moves that are intended to let stuff appear behind a mat layer or disappear behind a mat layer. But let's first start here with the in category. So we have lots of different moves with lots of different timings. So the very basic move is just moving from outside of the composition inside with a little bit of elasticity. And this is here in a very fast, in a normal speed, in a slow speed, and in a very slow speed. And of course you can also to some extent control speed by this oomph parameter. But the great thing is here that you have those different speeds you can directly pick from them, and all the elasticity, all the deformation and so on is optimized for this speed, such that the combination always looks great. Besides the basic moves, we have latching ones, and I like those really a lot because this is like these tiny little details that make your animations look a little bit more interesting. You can see that here at the end it's not just stopping, but it's moving a little bit forward and backward. So just a tiny little bit, just this latching here in the fast variant, it's even a little bit more noticeable. Let's say I want to apply this latching in normal here and maybe also choose some interesting sound effect and apply it. Now you can see really this end point here looks a little bit more interesting than just a simple animate in. We also have overshooting animations here in different speeds, very fast, normal, and so on. And you can see it's moving a little bit more. It's overshooting, which makes it again look a little bit interesting. Very slow one. And we have the stretch moves that are also pretty cool. And let's say we undo here this animation and instead we want to apply now this stretch move here. Yeah, let's also pick a nice sound effect for this. Just select the layer and click apply. For this layer we want to do the same, but we flip it such that it comes from the other side. And we already have a sound effect, so we don't need one again. Apply. And with really just very few clicks, we created this nice animation here. Okay, these are the move-ins. Now we also have the scale-ins that scale layers in various ways. This is a scale combined with a rotation. And here you can see again the detail of the easing and everything, that everything looks good together in these different variants. In principle, all those 3 make exactly the same, but you can see that this one looks very fast, this one is slower, and this one is about the same speed as the second one, but with a very different easing, like starting slow and then boom, at once appearing then very fast. Yeah, so the timing is different, and these little details really make the bundle pretty interesting, I think. So you don't have to tweak your keyframes a lot, you just can pick which mood you need, and then you get the right one. We have those moving from the side, so scaling at the same time moving in from the side, again in different speeds, one fast and one slow variant. So let me just again take this background layer here. At the moment I'm just animating those background shape layers. Of course you can also animate text, etc. in the same way, but for the sake of the example, let's say we want this background layer to scale in. Again, let's pick a nice sound effect and say apply. And now let's say we want to combine this with a 2-step animation. We have this nice that first move down and then to the left, again at different speeds. Maybe the normal one is good here. So I select this background layer. Let's say this one should end roughly at the same time, maybe a little bit later. So we go here, again choose an interesting sound effect and say apply. And this is what we created now really quickly with the broadcast bundle. You can see that this scaling lets the layer start like this or stand like this at the beginning. So maybe we just trim the layer here to make it appear at the right point in time. Okay, so these are the scale in from the side with movement and the two-step ones that first go down and then to the left. Then we have some scales here that come from the corner in fast and slow, and also combined with some movement, to just support the scaling with a little bit of movement. And then we have scaling from the middle, like this, in again different speeds. And this is, for example, great. I use this actually in our title here to animate this line here. And maybe just again choose some interesting sound effect. Let's check how long this behavior is. It's so long, so we want it to happen here at the beginning. Just click here, select the layer, and set to end of behavior. So therefore we move to the end of the area that the animation will take, and we click apply. And this is a little bit more interesting than just scaling this manually with 2 keyframes. First, because of the interesting easing, and then also because there's a subtle little bit of deformation going on. So it's like you can see here we've got rounded corners a little bit that are going to get perfectly square when it's finished. So these are the little details that make it look a little bit more professional. Okay, then we also have these scale in from the middle with a little bit of perspective. Here you can see this one looks fully symmetric, and the perspective one are just deforming a little bit different to give this impression of a 3D perspective here. And we have those also in an abrupt variant. And the abrupt variant, the idea of this one is that it doesn't show the full animation, but just like only the last bit of it. And this is, you don't really want a lot of animation, but just a little bit, just an impression of there is something more than just pop, my layer is here. Then these abrupt ones are really great, and you can use them really for very different styles. So here I've got prepared another example, just some text, maybe at the beginning of some feature film or so. If you take a look at this, what I did so far is I've just got the text and I've added some fast blurs. And now what we want to do is we want to add to this, at those points that I've marked here with markers already, we want to apply this abrupt, actually the slow variant of it. So we just select it and click apply, and we go to the second text layer here, and this appears a little bit later, so we apply the same thing here, apply. And actually I have copies of my original layers here, and let's make them visible such that you can see before and after. This is with the scale in middle abrupt behavior, and on the left you have the one without the behavior with just the fast blur. Now you can see here it's not much, there's just a little bit of movement or a little bit of scaling action. It's really, the point is like adding a touch of movement, a touch of deformation. Okay, then we also have these interesting move up, again in 2 different speeds with a slow and a fast variant. And we also have one from the side that comes with no movement. Also, again, a great solution if you want to, for example, make background boxes or lines or something like this appear. Now let's come to the matte moves. So we have this appear and the disappear section. And when you look at them, all of them are just essentially short moves that come from the top here, like this. And of course you can change the direction by flipping or rotating however you like. And the typical application for these is something like this here. This is actually the shot we've animated before, where we've animated those background rectangles, and now let's say we also want to animate the text itself. So this text is currently a text layer and it's on top of our background box, and the background box has set its track matte to alpha inverted. So it's like punching a hole into this box. This is what the text is currently doing with this alpha inverted track matte here. And now we want to animate this text also. And again, for appearing, we have here lots of different variants, very basic moves, then the latching ones that are like at the end, not just stopping abruptly, but having this interesting latching movement here that is probably a little bit more visible with the slower variants. But we want to go here with a very fast one and apply it to this text. Usually Squash and Stretch recommends that we split the text into individual characters, but for those moves in the broadcast bundle, this is often really not necessary, or even looks better when you don't do it. So I just recommend you to try both variants, but here I go with no don't split. And this is what it's looking like. Now let's also test some stretching. I want to have this second text here. I want it to appear with a little bit of stretch. So we have here, let's go over those quickly. Yeah, we have got those latching at different speeds. We've got overshooting ones that overshoot a little bit. I don't need to show them all to you, I think. And we have those stretching ones that stretch your layer a little bit. So let's pick here the fast one and rotate it, because let's say we want it to move this time here from the side. And we apply it to our text. Again, no, we don't want to split. You can see with just some background boxes and some text, I can create here some interesting looking animations in no time. A great feature of matte moves is that they adjust automatically how far they need to move. Let's apply a basic matte move to this text here, rotate it by 90 degrees, and then apply it again to this text here. You can see that the second one moves much more, because the layer is much wider than it is high. So it needs to move more to leave the box completely. And matte moves behave like this out of the box. Let me give you another example for this, again in our title. So we just choose appear basic here. So here it should start appearing. Now we have timing set to end of behavior, because this is the end position, the final position where it should arrive. So I just let my work area set to the duration of the behavior and move over, and now we know when it starts here, it must end here. And now for the broadcast bundle, it should move upwards. So we flip it like this, select the text and click apply. No, we don't want to split. And now it's moving upwards. Now, obviously, it's not disappearing behind the line, so we have to add a matte layer. We create a new solid, call it matte, and we move it down. And now we move it over our text and set for the text the track matte, inverted alpha matte. And now it's appearing here very nicely. Now, sometimes it might happen that your text is not moving far enough, yeah, and if this is the case, the great thing is, again, all that Squash and Stretch creates for you are keyframes. Yeah, you are free to tweak those keyframes at any point in time. Okay, I think you've seen all the behaviors in the appear section here of the matte move. The thrown ones are interesting because they are like from their feeling here. It starts slowly and then gets a quick acceleration, like they get a little kick kind of in the middle of the behavior. The disappear section is in principle very similar. Yeah, it's just like those are not optimized for making stuff appear, but make stuff disappear. So we can see here all different kinds of easings, all different kinds of speeds. This is what you find here in the disappear section. Lots of different moves. They might look simple, but turn out to be pretty useful in practice. So now the move out section, again in contrast to the matte moves, those moves really move out of screen, and there are abrupt ones which like start instantly with a very high speed, again at different overall speeds, and then we have the basic ones that accelerate a little bit more smoothly. And we have overshooting ones that first go a little bit in the opposite direction. Again, they are very fast ones of them, and then also slower ones. And like for the animate in and the matte moves, we also have here some stretch ones. And since sometimes the stretch is way too much what you need, we have the normal stretch moves, and then we have the stretch move subtles, which are like the same but with way less deformation. Okay, also for the out animations, we have scale animations. You can see here scaling with rotation out. We have those abrupt out scaling behaviors, all kinds of variants, and also ones where you have interesting combinations of scaling and movements. So I think I used actually this one here, for example, to let the line here in this title animation disappear again. Again, you also have some scale coming from the corner, and some going to the middle. Again, great to make lines, for example, disappear, or also background boxes, something like this. And finally, we've got these three transitions here. These transitions are used to create a transition from one layer to another one. So I prepared here a very basic example with just two text layers before and after. And we can just select both of them, go to the point where the one layer ends and the other one starts, choose a nice sound effect, and apply it. Again, for those transitions, usually I don't want to split, and this is what it looks like. And now let's try another transition. Let's say we take this bottom scale here. The nice thing about this one is that it comes with some pretty cool electronic sound effect. So let's apply it. And now we've got this transition. Okay, so that's the broadcast bundle. 130 behaviors, lots of different variants to choose from, more than 200 sound effects. I hope you like this bundle. I hope you liked this tutorial, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next one.